Good morning. Denise Dryden here from Whitefish, Montana, and this is Facebook Live. And so when you're watching this on YouTube or on my website, just know that I'm standing in Whitefish. I'm at the corner right next to the train depot, so you can sort of see the trains over here in behind me. And this is where the Great Northern took all the lumber from Montana over east out to the big cities on the East Coast, and there's a lot of history here. So I thought I'd pick this spot because it's kind of fun, and it's about resilience. And resilience is one of those characters where it's our ability to spring back, our ability to adapt, our ability to reform after something happens. Hi Kelly, I'm so glad you're on with me. If it's our ability to reform and our ability to recover, what does it take to be resilient? And because I work with parents and because I work with relationships, resilience, oh, nice car. Resilience is going to be one of those really big skills that we need in our pocket, that we can use whenever we're faced with a challenge, whether it's a challenge with our kids, our challenge in our relationships, our challenge with our health. It's all about resilience, right? So if it's our ability to adapt to adversity and get up and move forward, right? To just get up and start going back into the path we were originally on, or even a stronger path. This means that we have to have a really strong sense of self. If we're going to reform, if we're going to come back into form of what matters, we have to know what that form is. We have to know that it's strong. We have to know that it works. And that's the part that keeps coming up for me over and over again when I'm talking about resilience, is that if we, if it's elasticity or compression or, scattering into thousands of pieces and we have to come back into form, we have to have a strong sense of form. We have to know who we are. We have to know what matters to us. And so what happens when we talk about resilience is we can't address the strength of resilience until we address the victim, right? The victim energy, the victim mentality, the victim consciousness. And it's pervasive, it's sticky, it's heavy, it's like, oh, I can't do this, and I don't know who I am. And when the victim is present, then perseverance, resilience is impossible. Doesn't that make sense? If the victim is here, then our ability to be resilient is hampered. Because if we need to go back into a strong form and the victim doesn't hold form, then we don't even have a vision of how to be resilient. And I come across this a lot with the parents that I coach right now who have really challenging issues ahead of them with the student in program, is that they have to start building some deep resilience tools, and they don't know how. So when I'm talking about the victim and that victim energy, mentality, consciousness, I'm going to define it a couple of ways here. It's when we give away our sense of being in the world to get attention or affection from our caregivers. So it starts in childhood, and it's when we realize that who we are or what we are here to be causes friction in the family home. And so we compromise. We become small. We table who we are and what our purpose is. And so what happens is we give all of our power away to our caregivers. And when we put this in perspective of a highly sensitive person, if it means that you're highly aware and attuned to your environment, maybe even intuitive and empathic, and you can see what's going on, and your caregivers are completely unaware of this, we package it and we put ourselves in this small little box, and we don't rock the boat. And we learn to go through life being reactive to the outer world, reactive to people, reactive to family scenarios, reactive to a lot of things, right? So it's childhood based. Victimhood is always childhood based unless it comes from trauma, and that's a much bigger story. But let's talk about that pervasive victim energy. It's a belief in the roles and the power of the parent, of the extended family, of the siblings, of the environment, of the role that you were born into. We're in survival mode all the time, which is I don't know how to be myself, so I have to keep adjusting and monitoring who I am and being small. Being really small, it's learned. It's not something that we were born with. It's something we learn to do to not rock the boat. And so it's focused on the past. It's replaying an old system and an old belief system. It's external. It's like everybody out there is doing something that I have to react to. So it's very external, and then as a result, it becomes blame oriented, right? Which is, if you would stop doing this, then I could. And if you would stop doing this, then I could. And it becomes this externally driven reaction personality that gets smaller and tighter and less powerful as their years go on. So when a person feels powerless and unable to cope or take action in difficult situations, how can they be resilient? If you're powerless, how can you be resilient? How can you spring back? So what it comes down to is that if we don't know our form, if we don't know who we are, if our feet aren't on the ground, how are we going to spring back and move forward? So this is the key to resilience. So there's a few things that I came up with that, in my research yesterday and this morning, some really big, powerful things that help with resilience. One is awareness. Oh my God, how many times do I tell this story of who I was when I was little and hold on to that and let it define me? So awareness is where we define our form. Does that make sense? Forgiveness. If I let go of this form and actually create my own form, I can forgive myself and others for holding me in that place, right? It's not about making them right or wrong. It's just saying, I'm no longer going to hold on to this. Thank you, Kelly. Responsibility. It's up to me. No one else is going to be able to do this for me or with me, period. No one. I'm on my own. I'm the one who has to create my own form. I can't let my form be defined by somebody outside of myself. Gratitude. Thankfulness. I love this form that I'm starting to take. I love the food that I'm eating. I love the place that I'm living in. I love who I'm becoming. And I'm grateful for what's here. And that kind of helps us get out of that victim mentality. And compassion. I worked a lot on the last family retreat with family and compassion, which is, I've been holding on to these for a long time and they aren't serving me, so let's let them go. So it's not beating yourself up, it's saying, oh, that's what I did, so now just let it go. Let's change it. Compassion is when the heart and feelings are involved. And it means that we have to allow ourselves to really feel, right? It means we have to go that feeling's interesting, that feeling's interesting, and I'm present and I'm letting myself take form with these feelings. So why are we talking about resilience now? What's the most important thing that we can keep in mind when we're looking at changing this victim energy and stepping towards building resilience tools? Well, August 2017 is eclipse season. And we have two super powerful eclipses coming across the North American continent. We've got the lunar eclipse on the 7th, and we've got the solar eclipse on the 21st. And eclipses, if you study your astrology, you can mark eclipses and talk about hi Suzanne, I'm so glad you're here. If we look at eclipses and we look at our astrology and what's going on, eclipses are an invitation to address the need for change, to transform, to revolt against what doesn't work in your life anymore. So we have two opportunities with the moon and then this huge, just dragging across the United States all day from, I think, it hits the Pacific coast at about 10:30 Pacific Coast time and just drags all the way down to the southwest across the United States. So it's got some huge power to it. So, sorry, somebody just drove by, it kind of threw me. Find a way to get into your own form. Find a way to own it. find a way to get real, find a way to get authentic, find a way to get powerful. If you have to ask the eclipse to help you out, do it. But whatever is necessary, look at, how do I get out of this old role that I took on that no longer serves me, and get into and release the victim energy, right? So then as things hit us, and they will continue to over and over again, we can be resilient. Like, you know, we can fall over and get back up. We can shatter and then reassemble. We can compress and then spring back up, because it's about reforming, transforming, returning to form, and becoming buoyant, adaptive, flexible, bendable, creative, whatever, right? So resilience, victim, eclipse, they're all connected right now in August. And this is what I do. I bring like random pieces together, and then we work on them together in our coaching. If you're interested in learning more, talking to me, call me, ask me. Ask me for a cup of coffee. Ask me to meet you online. Let's have some tea together. Ask me to come explore this with you. You can find me on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com, and have a fabulous Sunday, a fabulous August, and get outside and play. It's beautiful. Take care. Bye-bye.